Who's counting it? You or me?
Counting it. I don't know. Actually, I shouldn't have said that.
I'll clap it in. You count it.
No, you count. You count it.
3, 2, 1.
You're either on the bus or you're off the bus.
Welcome aboard, episode 34 of Ridin the Bus. The official Iowa Wild podcast is on the way, presented by Explore Minnesota. Joey Goldstein to my left. I'm Ben Gislason, and our show this week features Carson Lambos, another one of many rookie players for the Iowa Wild who grinded his teeth this year, took some lumps, but Everybody leaving this year was extremely pleased with the growth of the team. Myself included, watching Carson Lambos, what he looked like night one to the end of the season. A guy who's gotten a lot of scrutiny. He's a first-round draft pick for a reason. I remember seeing sample sizes of it. There are moments in the season where you see a play here, a period there, and you go, there it is.
Yep.
I see it. Now for him, as he talks about, it's about doing that more than
consistency,
less, right? So, but a guy that off the ice, you could call him a first-round pick too for you guys in the social team. Was a superstar there for the Iowa Wild all year long, and we get into that and much, much more. So a great show with Carson. You will enjoy it, we promise. And another episode. Here we are, 34, closing in on 40 by the end of the summer months. At this
we'll
rate,
be past 40 at that point.
When will we? 50's coming up.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll get to 50 this summer. 50
no, but
we'll hit
like,
during the season,
I was going to say
probably.
during the season we might get there. We got something big for episode 50.
Send us your ideas.
Really
Call
big.
the bus line with your ideas.
The bus line. We do have the bus line later on. Thanks again for calling in. We'll get to that later on in the show. But luckily for us, it was prognostication.
This was close.
Yes.
This was close.
So if you rewind to last week, things are looking good for Hershey. Things are looking good for Coachella Valley. Coachella Valley takes care of their series. Milwaukee no more.
Yep.
But it's 3-1 at the time, Hershey and Cleveland. And so we had the obituary written for Cleveland. We're talking about who we think's got it for the rematch in the Calder Cup Finals. And then
my direct quote was, by the time you hear this, both series are probably going to be over. Psych. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. Cleveland battled back in Hershey. That was where all these games really took place. They basically came back from a 3-1 deficit.
3-0.
3-0. And brought it back tied it to 3-3. So game 5, Cleveland won pretty handily. But game 6, Cleveland wins it in overtime. Another last-second heroics bit, which is actually, I don't know if you saw what happened, but it's pretty crazy. So Hershey scored with, they went up 2-1. It looked like they were going to win the game. It was under a minute left. They scored to go ahead, and then with 32 seconds left in the game, Cleveland once again ties it, goes down, and ends up winning in overtime to push it to Game 7. But Game 7, Hershey wins it in overtime. Another great game. Hunter Shepard, who was the Baz Bastian Award winner for top goaltender in the league, really led the way. He stopped 42 shots in the game, which is insane when you consider that Hershey didn't have a lot of shots on net. Between the third period and overtime alone, he saw 23 shots. So he was getting peppered, and he absolutely held his own. But, yeah, we're getting Hershey, Coachella, rematch of last year's Calder Cup final, and pretty cool snippets. And I'm not going to go through them all because there's a lot, but Patrick Williams, the AHL beat writer, he's got a lot of fun facts that he just shared today about, like, Dan Bylsma and Todd Nelson and guys. They've played against each other 4 different times in Calder Cup as a player and coach, and all these different elements and different guys who've done different things. So give him a follow to get some of that stuff. But by the time you do hear this, what we do know for sure is that 2 games of the Calder Cup Finals will have been played. I do not know what those results are. You're going to have to tune in and find out for yourself. However, but as you're listening to this, we've got the rest of the schedule laid out for you. So tonight, you'll be able to watch Game 3. It's at 9 o'clock. That's actually not right. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It might not be. Time zones are a problem with me and Ben.
We've talked about it. Yeah, I don't know what episode it was. We laid that story out.
I think I have it right. Hold on. I'm going to double check.
We laid that
this is good
story out.
podcasting. We laid it out. We don't know.
Yeah, when we almost ruined the schedule release for the Iowa Wild one summer.
Yeah, that would have been bad.
Single-handedly
that would have been bad.
threw that into the dumpster, but
Yeah,
we didn't.
no.
We had help that
Yeah.
took care of it.
I'm not gonna try to do this one right now on the fly. But anyways, tonight, Game 3.
It's okay, Joey. I don't think anybody's coming to our podcast to make sure they get the schedule for the Calder Cup Finals.
They might
right?
be. You don't know that. Tonight, Game 3 in Coachella Valley, followed by Thursday, which will be Game 4. And then your if necessary games, Saturday will be in Coachella Valley again for Game 5. And then they go back to Hershey for Game 6 and 7, which will be on Monday and Wednesday of next week. So if you're looking to watch Calder Cup Finals and what they've done, at least in the past, I don't think they might have put some of them on NHL Network, but they definitely broadcast the games on NHL Network.
Game 7 of the Eastern Final was on NHL Network.
So I would imagine
they'll do it again.
Most of these games
yeah.
will be on there. So cool ways to watch. Obviously, AHL TV is a great option too. But that's kind of what we're looking at. I still think Hershey's going to win it, but I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a long series. So
I agreed. God, just that series, and then we can move off of it for a quick wraparound. But 4 overtime games, and to your point, I don't know this, but was at least 3 of them went to overtime with a last-minute goal?
Yeah, they were all in the last minute. Yeah, yeah. I think it was all the games in Hershey.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
The hockey fan in you I just pray someday I get to be involved in a series like that. Right? Just to get to be a part of something like that.
It's a lot of fun. Nerve-wracking, but
you feel all the emotions.
Yeah.
You get every single emotion that sports can provide you in a 7-game series.
Yep.
That would be something. But congrats to Hershey. Congrats to Coachella Valley. Congrats to Cleveland and Milwaukee on great years as well.
Cleveland
obviously.
through everything at
gosh.
Hershey. I mean, it's
Yeah.
credit to Hershey. Hershey's obviously a good team, but Cleveland was no slouch. I mean, everybody was quick to write them off after 3 games. We did it. But no, they're good, and they got a good program out there. So
Phenomenal. We look forward to watching that series. Another series is, as we record this, Game 3 will be tonight. We'll be a few games into it by the time this airs, but we'll see how well this take lives on. But what do you think is going to happen? The Oilers down 2 going into oil country now, that's a hard place to play. But as I always say, it's also a hard place to play for the home team sometimes too, because of the eyeballs that you get on you and the heat that you get on you playing in Edmonton or Toronto or Montreal or you name it. I don't know. Florida has really impressed. The game that I think Edmonton, and I think a lot of people think Edmonton should have won running away with, was Game 1, but enter the guy who shouldn't win the Conn Smythe Trophy, according to you, and Game 1 goes by way of Florida with a sparkling shutout performance by Sergei Bobrovsky, and then Game 2 he wasn't needed as much because then we got to see the absolute prototype of just grind it down, heavy defensive hockey.
Yeah.
And then we got a little bit of controversy at the end of the game, too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to get into my terrible analysis or predictions. We don't have to do that here. That's not what this is about, Ben.
It's not about shaming people.
I'm just done making predictions on what I think is going to happen in different series because all I've been is wrong since exit interview day when I said the Bruins would be in the Stanley Cup Finals. So
you did.
I'm just not
going
to
say anything. You got the Oilers right, though.
Yeah.
You get the Oilers right.
Great.
Door prize doesn't like it.
No. So I'm not going to predict anything. I just hope Edmonton wins a couple games. I don't want this to be a 4 or 5 game series. That's no fun for anybody. The Celtics are doing it right now to the Mavericks on the basketball side. And as a Celtics fan, it's great to watch, but for everybody else, it's kind of boring and lame. But we talked last week about the numbers behind the alumni and whatnot playing in the Stanley Cup final, and the AHL always puts them out. They finally did. So we had said it was 90%, but 87% of NHL players in the league this year are AHL alumni, so it played at least a game. 96 AHL players made their NHL debuts this season, and 349 players spent time in both leagues. The series itself, including coaches and things like that, includes 7 former AHL All-Stars, 4 Calder Cup winners. So there's some pedigree behind and strong AHL connections behind the Stanley Cup this year, which is obviously so exciting to watch. And it's great for us. It's a good story to tell, a good story for the league to tell. So you hope just those numbers continue to grow as time goes on. So those are my thoughts on the Stanley Cup, and I'm leaving it at that.
Can't sell the AHL any better than that. I'll take a gander. And then, again, fans will know right as I say this,
Yeah.
because the series is going to be at a certain point that it isn't now as they listen to this. I think Edmonton will they'll peel out one from Edmonton, but I think they'll win game 3. I think it'll be supercharged. Florida will get settled in. There was also that big flight delay. Mm-hmm. They arrived just 22 hours ahead of
They also did that
drop.
to themselves to a degree.
Sure.
They could have left earlier and they chose not to.
Yep.
So.
But that's a factor when you're used to doing things a certain way, and hockey players are creatures of habit. I think Edmonton will win game 3. I think Florida will eke out game 4. And then I do think Florida is going to seal it in 5 in Florida.
And I know that hurts you because you love.
Yeah, I do.
Play.
I do. The Oilers have been it was them and the Minnesota Wild growing up for me. That 06 Cup run that the Oilers made, I fell in love with that team. It was Chris Pronger and Ales Hemsky, you could argue, or the big stars. Ryan Smith, you could maybe throw in there, but then it was a bunch of just ditch-digging type players that were so good. They were so good. They were a team. They were a sum of their parts type team. Sean Horkoff scoring a winner late in San Jose. I remember watching that series very, very diligently and just thinking that, mainly kind of falling in love with the city a little bit too, and just how enamored by that moment that city got. It was pretty cool to watch a team get that kind of support. And I know that's how it is all across Canada and in a lot of U.S. cities now too with how the game has grown. But yeah, the Oilers are somewhat near and dear to my heart, so it is hard to see them be like this, but we'll see. And it's also hard to pick against them as an Oiler fan, but we'll see what happens. But it doesn't look good. It's too a hole like that. But the other thing that could come back to haunt me is they have been the team that everybody has ruled out. How many times have the Oilers been ruled out in this? Yeah,
that's
playoff?
what McDavid said after game 2. He said, "I look forward to people."
Everybody ruled out them against Vancouver. Everybody ruled them out against Dallas. Not only before the series started, but then once they went down to Dallas in that series. So they've just been getting this from everybody the whole playoffs, and they seem to feed off of this type of environment. What did you make of the Draisaitl hit on Barkov?
I don't want to spend a ton of time on it. I didn't think it was a clean play. He obviously left his feet. He kind of threw the chicken wing out. I don't love it. I don't think it was suspension worthy. It probably should have been a major penalty. And then you just leave it at that.
I agree with that. I have the same feeling.
I think that's it.
I agree with that. Yeah, it was a bad look for the Oilers and Draisaitl.
Yeah, it was
for a lot of reasons.
Frustration penalty.
That's why.
Sure.
That's why. Because you saw it like, ooh, they're reeling now. They don't know what to do. Yeah. And so now they're taking pot shots at guys. So
and Barkov's fine. Like he's gonna play.
Yeah.
So
which is good. That's the last thing. You don't want to see anybody missing in this series, let alone someone that important to the series. You want to see him play, so that's good that Barkov will be in. Hockey ops notes before we get to Carson Lambos, mutually announced last week via social media, sort of. Cody Franzen, assistant coach of Iowa, will not be returning next year. No, it came from both sides, very amicable parting of ways. So certainly wishing Cody the best in whatever comes next, and a guy who served a very important role when they needed it after having Pat Dwyer get brought up midseason to Minnesota, and you had a first-year head coach in Ben Simon running the bench, Brett McLean being the first-year head coach. So it was an important role to get filled at the time. I know Cody made some good friends here and certainly made an impact. So we wish Cody well in whatever is next, and the search begins for whoever the next assistant coach of the Iowa Wild will be, which is an exciting thing too. Yeah.
I know we didn't get into it with Carson too much, but having somebody like Cody who played as many games as he did in the NHL, being able to mentor these young guys and teach them things is, it's hard to put a value on that.
Massive, massive insight that he provided, and they'll be looking for someone to do the same type of thing, whoever that next person is that comes in. Carson does talk about Pat Dwyer, a fun story with Pat Dwyer. He got name dropped in that one from Carson. We'll let him tell you the rest of it himself as it's time to head to period number 2. We'll scrape the ice, and then Carson Lambos, Iowa Wild defenseman, joins us next on the bus.
Before we get to our interview with Carson Lambos, we've once again got to shout out Explore Minnesota. With nearly 500 courses scattered in the land of 10,000 lakes, there's no better place to hit the range than Minnesota. You'll not only find unique and challenging courses, but you'll also experience a backdrop of serene lakes and forests. See for yourself what makes Minnesota the star of the North. Visit exploreminnesota.com.
How would you grade that read, Carson?
Pretty smooth.
Yeah,
Pretty smooth.
pretty smooth. Yeah.
Pretty smooth. Speaking of smooth, someone I've just so enjoyed watching skate this season. First-round draft pick of the Minnesota Wild, rookie defenseman as of last year. No longer a rookie now. I'm sure you're happy to shed that title. Carson Lambos joins us here for period 2. Carson, thank you for this time. And how is the peg on this fine summer day up north of the border?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pretty nice day today. It's been a lot of rain and not like too hot outside, so definitely savoring the days we get that it's not downpour and a lot of wind. So, but no, it's been good.
Where are you? Where are you right now?
I'm in my room just in the basement of my house. So
There's a lot of just empty shelf space behind you.
yeah,
We got to do something about
yeah,
that.
no, yeah.
For a guy
It's,
who's got some things he could put on there.
Yeah.
Like a very decorated career so
Yeah.
far.
There's just nothing
I
there.
don't-
What are the plans?
I,
What's going there?
I don't know, just I move a lot and never really settle in. So I think my dad's like lived in like 4 or 5 different places over like the past 2-3 years. So keep it efficient and yeah.
Very
Efficient-
minimalistic and
yeah.
efficient approach.
Efficient's one way to put it.
Yeah.
Empty is the other, but sure. Yeah.
Yeah, empty. There you go.
Speaking of moving, your first time officially on Riding the Bus. You were on the Exit Day episode briefly. Greatly looking forward to getting to sit down with you in a longer form approach here today. And the question we always like to lead with to really get people that are listening, that are watching on the bus with Carson Lambos is tell us a great bus story. It does not have to be from your time with the Iowa Wild. As a Western Leaguer, you've spent an incredible amount of time on buses already in your young career. So when I say a great bus story, what is on your mind?
Yeah, I don't know. There's so many. I think one, it's not even really that much of a story, but it just like kind of sticks out as a funny moment. Like, so this year on our bus in Iowa, like it's a double decker on the upper deck, just like the players. There's like the front row of seats is like 4 across, and it's not probably like the least comfortable spot on the bus, but like it's kind of got the nickname between some of us like the shoot it zone. So it's perfect for just shooting it and like talking about nothing and playing cards or kind of doing whatever, but there's only 4 spots. And sometimes like if you like are a talker, like I like to sit there but sometimes I'm feeling like I just want to watch a movie, so I'll go back a little bit and kind of, because if you want to just relax, that's not the place to be. So anyways, Mike Milne is like a very chatty guy. Like he's always down to shoot it. He's always down to get in the mix. And I just remember like one time the 4 spots got occupied and he was like one of the last guys on the bus. And we were like having a pretty good time up there. I think we just won a game and like we were just having fun, having a bunch of laughs. And Mikey was just getting like total FOMO, like sitting back there. He could see us laughing. And I think he texted me. He's like, "What are you guys doing? Or do you want to play cards?"
Hey, what's going on up there?
So, I don't know.
You guys having a good time?
Yeah, yeah. So it was just so much fun, and like, because Mikey just loves like always being in the mix, and if the guys are ever going for dinner or doing something, like he's there, which is great, and like love him for it. But yeah, I just remember like cracking up so hard, like we would like even it just got to a point where we're just pretending to have fun just to make him feel that way. So no, that's
kinda
a funny
mean,
story.
actually.
It is.
Yeah, it is a little bit mean.
There's plenty of places we could go with you bringing up Mikey Milne this early as the bus is officially off now. We've left the station. We're rolling with you, Carson. There's a lot of different places we could go with you leading with Mikey Milne. You guys obviously have a rich background, a rich history together playing so many seasons, not only now between the Winnipeg Ice, but here as well with the Iowa Wild, spending so much time together. The one thing we unearthed on last week's show was the rivalry that you have with Caden Bankier and Kyle Masters and Mikey Milne as your teammate. I have been told by Caden Bankier, and fans that listen to the show heard this as well, that there are some less than admirable approaches that get taken in order to help gain a competitive edge. Certain pauses that come at certain times, ways to try to throw your opponent off that maybe some might deem to be illegal per NHL video game standards. What, if any, comments do you have about those allegations that Caden Bankier laid out last week?
Well, I would definitely say it goes both ways, but I also know you gotta do whatever it takes to win, and you can complain or you can, do whatever it takes to get a slight edge and change momentum in a game.
Banks said that the two teams, the Masters Bankier group based off the Milne Lambos group, the Milne Lambos group, very supportive, positive, tap each other on the shoulder, and then that the Masters Bankier team is nothing like that. They carve each other up during the games. Can you think of anything that you have heard that group say to each other during the game, or any funny moments when you think about Kyle and Caden getting after it and getting after each other during these matches?
Yeah, well, I'm sure you heard like Kyle's the better player on the other team, and like it'll turn into a game where me and Mike are having our way with them, and Kyle just kind of stops playing and leaves Banks out to dry, and he's like, I wasn't even that bad, and he always is. You'll see like seems like it's a power play. Banks is just on the wrong side of the ice, doesn't know which way he's going. But no, they're definitely hard on each other. That's probably why I think me and Mike definitely win more than we lose. I would like to think that's what it is. So yeah, me and Mike, we have a more supportive dynamic.
We were sitting here last week and we're praising Banks for his intangibles and his smarts. The guy doesn't know where he's supposed to be on the ice in the video game. That's a little
true.
scary.
That is a little scary.
That's a little scary.
Your first time away from home, you were blessed to get to play junior hockey in your hometown, but you did have a little bit of a sample size of being away from home before you got here to Iowa. And I wanted to touch on that because I haven't gotten to talk with you myself much about this, nor do I think maybe all of our fans know that when the WHL went away during the COVID pandemic, you went away as well. You went over to Finland playing for JYP over there in Liga, in the Finnish league, and that was something that I'm sure you never had on your radar until something that the world never had on its radar popped up in 2019, 2020. Can you walk us through how that process worked, how it came to be, how the discussion started to happen, and why inevitably that wound up happening and you wound up spending the season for the most part in Finland?
Yeah, leading up to that year, obviously there's like a lot of not knowing what was going on or what it was going to be. So kind of would talk with my agent a little bit. And we're like, hey, like we might have a couple things in place, like if the Western League keeps getting pushed back more and more. So yeah, I ended up getting pushed back, and they said, hey, there's a team in Finland that would like for you to go and play, and so I did. And yeah, it was a crazy experience. I feel very lucky because that was my first time going to Europe, other than for a wedding when I was like 4 years old. So I don't really have much recollection of that. But yeah, first time going to Europe, so kind of got like the culture shock and just experiencing a different way of life. And then also like you kind of grow an appreciation, or it gives you a sense of empathy for what guys are going through when they come to North America. Maybe not to the extreme. I like couldn't really speak to most of my teammates. A lot of guys had a lot of broken English. There's a couple guys that did have good English, and it's kind of funny. You're like, anyone that speaks good English is going to be your friend, and they were great guys. But it's like, well, I hope the English speaking guys are nice, and they were. So that's pretty funny. But yeah, it kind of gives you a feeling for what guys are going through when they're coming here, and the changes and the rest of it. Yeah, I'm really grateful for my time there. Definitely gave me some perspective on life, and yeah, first time moving away. So I know most guys usually move away in billet, and can see their families few times a year, which was totally not the case. I didn't get to see my family the whole time I was there, and even lining up calls with the time changes and everything. So yeah, it definitely opened my eyes.
You had to grow up fast. Let's see, would you have been 17 at that time, or were you even younger when you went over there?
I went over when I was 17. I had my
17.
18th birthday there. So,
Jeez.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Like, who do you think you became after that experience? Like, what did that teach you? Because it is the perfect example of baptism by fire. You had to just go figure it out on the fly. And like you said, unlike most kids, especially that are working their way up in the hockey ranks, especially in Canada, you have a billet. You didn't have that in Finland. You were there on your own as a 17-year-old.
Yeah, I was actually, should clarify, I was living with the family.
Okay,
Um,
good. I was going to say they
I was
just
living
threw you
with
into
the
the
family.
fire
Yeah,
then.
that would've been
Okay,
tough.
yeah.
Yeah.
You did have a family.
No,
That helps.
it was living with the family and they were awesome. But they had a lot going on. They had three young kids, so it was busy, and so just kind of had to be a little bit more independent, and definitely didn't have mom doing every last thing for me. So that changes things a lot, but no, it forced me to kind of mature and grow up, and kind of learning just to, when you have a problem or a tough day, like you kind of just have to deal with it a little bit and push through. So I think that was some valuable lessons, and I even went through a similar thing, like it's similar again this past year coming to Iowa, and you come back home and you kind of soften up a little bit, and you go back, and it's back to being on my own. So I think that experience in Finland definitely prepared me a little bit for this past year.
I assume that they put you with a family, but they put you with an English-speaking family, correct?
Yeah, so the dad of the family, he spent some time playing in North America, I think in the American League, and then the mom taught English at like the Finnish schools, so she had good English. But then it's interesting, like there's three kids and they can kind of understand English. There was like a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, and like a 13-year-old, so their understandings is better the older they get. But yeah, like I lived with these kids for 3 years, or for a whole year, and like I never talked to them, so they could kind of understand what I was saying, but I would have no idea when they were speaking within each other. But I'm grateful they opened their house up to me, and uh, were always very welcoming and very kind, and yeah, they adapted their life so I could be a part of it.
So the kids weren't just sitting there. You said they're very nice and everything. You don't think the kids were sitting there just making fun of you and Finnish, do you?
Yeah, probably what is this guy doing? I think that I'm sure that
He's
well, I
eating
never,
all of the eggs.
What a clown.
He's eating all of the eggs.
never heard my name, but maybe they had like a code for it or something.
Who knows what your nickname was there?
Yeah.
Did the you one I made this comment to you early. You have a maroon suit that I very much think is sharp, but I've been told that there is more to this suit than even I knew about. It's become quite a topic of conversation amongst, I think, some of your peers on the team. This legendary maroon suit. Was that with you in Finland? And what can you tell us about this suit and why your teammates talk about this suit so much?
No, it wasn't with me in Finland, first of all. But I got it like right when I got home. It was my grad suit for high school, and like I was pretty big by then, so it still fits. But it's in the trash now. We'll say that. It's got it's got some rips and some stains. It's been repaired a few times, but I think it's kind of it's gone through a lot, and I hear a hard time about it, but I don't know. I kind of embrace it a little bit. I think it got to a point where you have to like look professional and presentable, and it was maybe pushing that a little bit, so I got rid of it, and with thanks to a lot of the guys giving me a hard time about it.
I always thought you did a good job dressing it up. I never noticed any of the stains or the rips. I guess I maybe just wasn't looking closely enough.
Yeah.
But it's funny, that was on the guys that I reached out to that got back to me. First order of business, all of them.
Maroon suit.
Maroon suit.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm always in the mix, and was highly scrutinized with everything I did, and that suit definitely didn't do me any favors, and it drew a lot of attention to me, and I knew it was coming some days when I would throw it on. It was kind of became like a travel suit. It wasn't my A suit. So those travel days, that's the longest time you spend in your suit. So yeah, they saw all of it, and not the nice suits I wear to the home games, because you're usually just in those so briefly.
That checks out. Everybody's got that. The travel suit. I've got mine. The difference is
I don't.
Mine's black. So it's not maroon. So it doesn't draw the kind of eyeballs to it that a maroon's. I mean, I want to get a maroon suit, But if it
I
was,
have a maroon suit.
do you? It's a great look.
Yeah.
But if it was an older suit that maybe has a few tatters on it, that would draw the eye of your, especially in a hockey locker room where everything is highly scrutinized. To your point, Carson, you bring up, and I loved how you put it, highly scrutinized. And I caught on to this early. There are guys that try to stay out of the spotlight. There are guys that try to be in the spotlight too much. You're right in the middle of it, because I noticed there are some times, and you do it so well, he leans into being a rookie. You lean into taking flack from the guys. Where did you learn that from? Because what winds up happening is it winds up endearing you to your teammates even more than if you just try to push it away or get away from it. And it worked like a charm, because by the end of the year, he was in the middle of everything, and in the best of ways, he was in the middle of it. Where did you learn that strategy from?
Yeah, probably having an older brother helps a lot. I think like you can go one of two ways with it, and like the little things, like it can get annoyed and mad at them, and that'll just turn into misery. So I kind of found out to make humor of it and have some fun with it. And yeah, I don't know, it's like similar thing. You come home and I like to kind of lean into it with my friends, and no, I have a lot of fun with it. And the group of guys there this year were so good for it. So yeah, but I would definitely say having the older brother is, I was prone to a lot of abuse growing up. So that was, maybe I shouldn't throw that word around, but I was prone to scrutiny growing up.
One of the great examples of this that I think back on, and I can't help but chuckle, was when you were filling in for Santa Claus at the team party. He tapped you on the shoulder, needed you to fill in for him. He couldn't make it. And you wished everybody a Merry Christmas, but you pointed to Brendan Miller and you said, "Except for you." And the entire room, Brendan Miller included, exploded. It was electric. It was one of the great rookie moves I've ever seen. Set the stage for us and why he got singled out in that moment, because it was and this wasn't that late in the year. It's only halfway through the year, so
you're probably talking.
You're still kind of figuring it out with your teammates, and it was one of the most electrifying moves I've seen. It was unbelievable to watch it unfold live. Walk us through that scene and why he was the one that got singled out.
Yeah, so I guess like I should preface with that Millsy was like, he's kind of the guy that like he wants to bring you in, and like he does that in his weird ways of like calling you out with every last thing you do and always being vocal, and you can't trip over your shoelace without him seeing it. So, I kind of figured out after a while by Christmas time that I could maybe start to give it back to him a little bit. But this was still probably a little bit before I was doing it as much as I was at the end of the year. So anyways, for Christmas, there was Santa and I think 2 or 3 elves, and all of us rookies had to fill those roles. So I think for some reason, just kind of, I got deflected to being Santa, which was fine. And so you go up and you're Santa, and all the players and staff that have kids are coming up, and I'm giving them gifts that the team has bought for them, and they're sitting on my lap if they're not crying about it. And throughout this like whole process, Miller is just having his way with me. Like, I'm not really in a spot where I can say much to him because the kids are like on my lap, and he's just like, just nonstop, like he is, and just wouldn't shut up. So I kind of thought like I can't just let this go on forever. So I got up and told Merry Christmas to everyone, looked him in the eye, and then I gave him a finger point with my white gloves and said, "Except for you." And I guess the room got a chuckle out of that because it was pretty visible that he was giving me a hard time. So I had to respond.
Oh, it was incredible. And I'll say this, and I said this after, and that was my 4th Iowa Wild staff holiday party for the hockey ops staff that I'd been to, far and away. And there have been other good Santas, far and away the best Santa. Because, again, he leaned into it. He came in, he was ho-ho-hoing, and he came in, and he got the voice deep. You leaned into it so well. And, again, just more to what I was saying, that it plays well to the audience when you just accept it and you just enjoy it, because that's exactly what you did, and it was unbelievable.
I guess we got the rookies this year got some big shoes to fill then, huh?
They do. Yeah, based off of that performance. That was a highlight reel-worthy performance. Your first season on the ice, Carson, there were some great stretches. There were some stretches of learning. If you had to put a title to the chapter of your hockey career book, this is chapter 1 on the Rookie Season Pro, what do you think the title of that is?
Yeah, I'd probably say growing pains. I went in this year knowing it's not an easy league, and knowing it was going to be hard and have to figure things out. So yeah, a lot of growing pains this year. Times when the game was feeling good and was more confident, and then other stretches where it seems like so impossible to have success. So figuring that out and trying to stay on top of the mental game as well as just figuring out what I'm not doing right that's giving me troubles and trying to yeah, next year definitely want to limit those stretches. I think they kind of lagged on for longer periods of time than I obviously wanted to because games happen when you're not at your best, but I don't want to let that compound into the next and the next and the next, and that kind of happened this year. So just yeah, definitely a lot of growing pains this year.
You're such an astute student of the game. I was told that about you long before I met you. Saw it firsthand this year in how many hours you put into whether it's film with the coaching staff, whether it's watching film on your own, asking questions to older guys. Are there some topics that you think you spent the most time watching or you spent the most time stewing on that you think will benefit you because you spend so much time keying in on those elements of your game during this rookie season, which for everybody is all about growth? I think if I ask this question to the entire American League rookie club, they might all say growing pains because that's how it works, with the exception of the very, very small percentage.
Yeah, I think there's so many things throughout the year, and the coaches are trying to help, and it's sometimes it feels like it's a bit overwhelming, and there's a lot of things that you're supposed to be better at, and I just think the biggest key for me, after taking a step back and watching a few of my games, just it's easier to watch with a different perspective when you're not in the middle of the season. So I've kind of just realized I need to slow down a little bit out there. I think some games or some situations, I'm just trying to will my way through and just work so hard. And sometimes you go back for the puck too fast, and there's that awkward gap where you got to protect yourself and try and make a play at the same time. So just kind of slowing down in certain situations and playing with a bit more poise, a bit more relaxed. And that comes from the knowledge of the game and understanding how to take contact and the rest of it. But I think a big piece of that for me is uh, just like the mental side and mental performance. And so I'm spending some time working on that this summer too, and trying to work on those things that were giving me making a bit of a struggle for me this last year.
That's quite an illuminating perspective because normally when you say, what do I need to do different to somebody, you don't hear the term slow down.
Yeah.
But it makes a ton of sense, especially when you consider the fact, if you look at positions and how much they get exposed as young players. It starts with goalies, and then it goes to defensemen. And the other thing I think about is a lot of this year, Carson Lambos was deep partnered with David Spacek. That's two 20 to 21-year-old rookies playing together in the second best league in the world. Did you guys have almost like a collaboration where you guys were working within each other to say, I made that mistake last night, or I made that mistake last week? Was there a growth culture to how young this blue line was? Because not only you two, but on some nights it was 5 1 or 2 year pros playing for the Wild blue line, and you played huge minutes for someone who was just very, very young into the league.
Yeah, I think that kind of came from our coaches, the growth culture and wanting to see us kind of approach it with that mindset. I think there's also a fine line though. You can't just be comfortable, and there has to be improvements and performance, and you can't just and we didn't just say it's your rookie season, you had a bad game, just wash it under the rug. I think there is still some accountability and the rest of it, but I think for the majority of it with us younger guys, I try to look at it in a growth way and not feel like it's all or nothing if I had a tough night, and just try to learn from it and just learn from the whole season collectively.
So many of these answers, as we talk about, obviously a year for the team that did not go the way they wanted it to go. And Carson, listening to you talk, and I've seen this firsthand, the way you operate, the way you conduct yourself, the way you've conducted yourself in the locker room already, everything you do screams leader. And as a leader, you're going to downplay this and deny this, but I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to listen to it. You have natural born leader in you. I've seen it firsthand. To you, what does leadership look like? Because to me, I think about that answer. Yes, it's a growth culture, but you also, as a leader, go, but at times you can't just sit back and say, well, I'm just growing. No, you have to hold yourself accountable, and you've done that. So when I say leadership, what does that look like to Carson Lambos in life, let alone a hockey locker room?
Yeah, I think the probably couple most important things for being a leader is kind of being able to understand someone and what they're going through, and then just being approachable um, and someone that people feel comfortable having a conversation with. I think that's pretty important, and those are two things I try to do with my teammates and just in everyday life, I guess. And I feel like when I can do those things, you can have people gravitate towards you or feel comfortable around me. And there's times when it's easier to do that, and times when like this year, you're going through a harder time and it's harder to be a leader. So, um, but yeah, just trying to be understanding and approachable, and someone that people feel comfortable talking to.
Captain of the rookies. That's what I was
right
told he
there.
was called. Right?
Yeah.
Fitz?
Yeah. I've only got like one real hockey question. It kind of goes back to, the growing pains piece, but you don't have to take us obviously in detail the conversations, but exit interviews is a term everybody hears every year in the hockey world. And they're always different for every person. But for you, obviously you go into your exit interview, you're coming back. What are some of the areas of growth for you to work on? Like, what are the things you're really harping on this offseason, aside from trying to slow things down? Like, are there other small little nuances to the game that maybe Brett and Mike are saying, or the development coach saying, let's work on these skills over the summer?
Yeah, I think one thing Mike said that was pretty valuable, and just for my game, points is so irrelevant, and that side of the game, the offensive production, he doesn't really care too much about that. Just trying to be like a reliable, steady defenseman, and then trying to grow from there. So, I mean, there's so many different things that can go into that. I think one thing for me this summer that will make the game feel easier is if I can get better at controlling the puck and being able to stick handle with my head up, or turn with the puck and get my head up quicker and see plays faster. I think that will really help. But yeah, honestly, the biggest thing for me is when I'm going on the ice now, or thinking about it. Sorry, I got something in my throat here.
I've been there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting to hear you say.
I know how that goes.
It's interesting to hear you say some of that stuff too, because like I think a lot of people think like to be successful, you got to score. You got to score. You got to put up points. Where it's like, well, on the defensive end, it's no. If you can be a reliable defenseman, the rest of that stuff will come.
Sweet
Start
music
there.
to my ears talking
Yeah.
about defensive defensemen. This is my great love is defensive defensemen. So I can talk all day about that. And being the guy who you don't want to be noticed, right? I bring this up on broadcasts sometimes. For some defensemen, being invisible is the best
good.
compliment that you could get, because it means that only the really trained eyes are seeing what you're doing. I think to some extent, maybe that is a little bit of your game, Carson, right?
Yeah, I think that's when I'm at my best, is when I'm kind of, you don't really see me too much out there, just making the small little plays. But yeah, even just like watching the playoffs now, when you look at the decors on the two teams in the finals, like there's a few guys that have some flash, but there's a lot of guys that are kind of steady Eddie, and you don't see them much, but there they are in the Stanley Cup. So I think that's definitely speaks volumes about the value of a guy that can just kind of do the right thing every shift. I think one thing you hear about defensemen is you can't make many mistakes. And you got to really limit those and be calculated with when you're going to take risk and when you're not. And so yeah, just trying to figure that out. And it was a big jump for me trying to figure that out this year. And I'm sure the learning will never be over with that, and just trying to grow with it.
Look no further than Gustav Forsling for what the value of an invisible type defenseman is like.
Yeah, well,
it's pretty high.
Yeah, I think you've seen the
value
Stanley
is
Cup
really
too.
high.
There's guys who are all over the place, and they're out there in a good way. But there's a lot of guys in this series too who are being called out for being seen too much. Right? You get the flip side of it too. I think that's a big part of it. I'm gonna move away from the hockey piece for a bit.
I
and
was
have
ready.
some more
Let's do
fun.
it.
Yeah,
Let's
so
do it.
obviously you get in the mix a lot. You said within the locker room and everything, but you've also been pretty heavy in the mix on our social channels this year, and someone who we could always turn to if we needed someone for a video or a content piece, whatever it may be. So before I ask one specific question, what you were so open to doing things. Why is that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they just kind of the social media team will ask if I want to do something, and I don't know, in pro hockey, the practice days, there's a lot of time in the day, and I don't really see the rush in getting home to sit on the couch or kind of do a lot of nothing. So, um, I see it as a good use of time, and it's fun, and I mean, it's definitely, something that kind of fills the time, and can kind of crack a couple of jokes usually and have some fun with it. So I try to look at it like that and not as much as a chore. So, yeah, and the social team's great there. They're never asking us to do anything on a game day or when, the time's wrong. They kind of have an understanding of when the time is right, I guess.
That's just me who comes in and asks for interviews
Yeah.
midday on game day.
Yeah,
That's me.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that stands out, and I know it's on Ben's list, it's on my list too, and like I said, you're willing to jump in and do whatever they ask, but a pretty ridiculous request came your way at one point during the season, and they asked Banks to do it, and he said absolutely not right away, and they came to you, and it was a TikTok trend video, and you ended up with quite the amount of just bright green frosting all over your face. Why were you so willing to jump in and do that one compared to the others?
I don't know. They asked me to do it, and they showed the video of someone else doing it that they were kind of modeling it after, and I laughed at it, and I thought it was funny, and it's kind of a funny thing to look back at now, and it's I think that's of the internet of all the bad things it can be. It's like the great thing I can look back on that and have that forever. So it's pretty it was pretty funny, and I had a good laugh and good time doing it, and it was definitely out there. I've never thought I would be shoving green icing on my face, but it was a good time.
Well, I'm just going to ask the follow-up question because it's come up in a couple episodes of this. Have you seen these TikTok videos with Luke Toporowski? Because apparently they're also very embarrassing, and he doesn't want anybody to see them.
I haven't seen these. I heard this was maybe a few years ago. He was kind of TikTok famous, I guess. I don't have TikTok, so I don't know, but I'm familiar with a few of the trends, and maybe he's got some good dance moves. So see those.
This is going to be on my question sheet every time we've got somebody.
We're asking everybody
Have you
about it
seen
now.
We
especially the Western League
yeah,
guys.
we've got it.
Especially
We got to
Western League
find them.
guys.
We got to find them.
Yeah, so if you ever stumble across any of these videos, make sure to send one of them our way. We're not going to post them. Joey and I have not seen one. We want to see one so
urban
bad.
legend. We've got to see it. We've got to see one at this point.
One of the things this year along this same lines, you didn't willingly partake in this, but in Hershey, a cup gets taped to the top of your helmet. And I remember walking out I like to go out and shoot the breeze a little bit during morning skate. And I see Carson skating with a little Pepsi cup taped to his helmet. Maybe he's trying to do it to keep his head level while he skates. I thought maybe it was some kind of a training thing. And then the more I realized it, the more I went, I don't think he knows it's on there. And then I caught on. I got the picture. And the funny thing about the picture, which we'll put up for our YouTube fans to see, is in this photo, you're looking directly at me taking a picture of you. So I thought I maybe ruined it, but I didn't ruin it because you didn't notice. What do you remember about that? And do you have any idea who put that cup on your helmet?
I don't. I have a few ideas, I guess, but I don't have any concrete evidence. But I remember it stayed on for a while. We did a few drills during morning skate, and the coaches were okay with it, I guess. I do remember it was when we were with Patty Dwyer, and we had I wouldn't say it was a super stern conversation. We were talking about my game, and a couple little things, and he was like he kept it together the whole time, and I had no idea. So that was pretty funny, like to talk to one of the coaches about my game, and yeah. And then I think I remember like guys were shooting pucks at my feet while I had it on, which is like nothing really out of the ordinary. But yeah, a little more than usual.
Oh, I got a kick out of that. And just the
I just
realization that he
remember
didn't
getting
know was
yeah.
so great.
I remember getting the picture from you that morning, and it was just unprompted, and there was no context to it, no caption, no nothing. It was just a picture of you just looking down at the puck, just this cup on your head, and yeah, I mean, pretty just one of the many rookie moments that you had this year. Another one being which I has been talked about quite a bit, but this whole haircut fiasco.
Yeah.
For the people who haven't heard this story, can you share this whole haircut incident, I guess, with our listeners and viewers?
Yeah, so I was in Des Moines and my hair had gotten long and it was time for a haircut, and obviously I didn't know any hairdressers there, so I went to a chain spot that I guess you're not supposed to go to. I didn't know. And asked for kind of like shorter on the sides, longer on the top, and she took the guard off, and there was it was definitely shorter on the side. So, yeah, like actually, like funny enough, she cut me with the razor, and
Oh my
there was
God.
like a little bit of blood, like nothing like crazy, but a little bit of blood. And she says, "Oh, like." Oh, and I could see she was like a bit frazzled, and she's like, "Oh, we drew blood. Like, I'm not gonna charge you for this." So I got a free haircut, and then it just took like so long to grow back, and uh, yeah, that definitely didn't help me with, especially being a rookie. And at one point, like there's a bit of a rat tail coming in, so Brendan Miller took the scissors out and cut me a little bit, or cut my hair a little bit. But actually, since then, I think I got the haircut maybe like November, and since then I haven't got a haircut, so it's still growing back.
It's looking
Yeah.
sharp as we sit today. But yeah, I vividly remember when they cut it over at Recplex, just in the corner after practice one day.
I remember
I
seeing
walked
that
in
video
halfway
too.
through it and being like, "What's happening here?"
Yep.
And why does Brendan Miller have a sharp object in his hand?
Yeah.
Get that away from
Yeah, that
him.
shouldn't be allowed. Yeah.
Yeah, of all people that I let near my head with scissors, he probably should have been the last one.
There's a story, speaking of great stories, about you leaving keys in a golf bag. That's all I know.
He's in a golf bag. Who can I ask? Can I ask your source? I don't.
We don't reveal sources here.
reveal
Okay,
sources.
I
Sorry.
think. Oh no, I think. Yeah. Okay, I can remember this now. Yeah, we went out golfing one day, and we played at Copper, and we drove to get something to eat. And I didn't drive, but I had my keys on me because I like needed them to get back to my apartment, I guess. Um, and I was kind of like scrambling, like, oh, like where's my keys? Like I couldn't find them, and we had been like 20 minutes from the golf course. I called the golf course, no answer. I even like looked in my golf bag, obviously not hard enough, and I couldn't find them, and I was kind of like panicking a little bit, and I couldn't get back to my apartment. Like the apartment manager, like it was too late, I couldn't call them, so I was about to go sleep on like Mikey's couch for the night, and then anyways, I gave one last gander in my golf bag, and there they were, like intense stressing and like wouldn't say freaking out, but wasn't too pleased with what was going on, and I ended up finding them. So that was a good scare, or it was a pretty funny memory.
That's a top end one of the worst feelings
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. And
Yep.
then you rack your brain and you go, okay, I think I know where it is. And then when it's not there, some of the places I've looked for things, there's no way on God's green earth that the thing I was looking for could have wound up
Yep.
in this spot, yet I'm looking there. Do you remember having a spot that you looked that was just so weird or bizarre? But when you're in this situation, you don't know where something is, you can drum up all kinds of scenarios in your head as to how
Yeah.
your keys got to this area. Was there anywhere that you looked, thinking back on it, where you went, why did I actually think my keys were in this spot?
Like no, because it was just in Mikey's car. So I kind of like looked
Had it
between the seat,
identified.
up and down the bag. But I kind of like you start to panic, like, oh man, we just played a whole round of golf. Like they could be anywhere on this golf course. Like how I'm gonna have to go like retrace my shots and like drive the cart where we drove it. So definitely glad that I didn't have to do that, or I found them before I did that.
one thing we wanted to get to, it came up last week, and it was something that we highlighted a little bit throughout the season, was, as I like to call it, the PGA versus Live Golf card game rivalry that there was on the bus. I know you were really integral as the captain of the rookies in starting this card game at the front of the bus, and you were also the only rookie that finally accepted all of the attempts to get rookies to come back and play in the PGA card game, but it was short-lived. You did it once and you were done with it. What can you share about that experience in the veteran card game and why you never went back?
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, we had like the live up front, which is, I mean, I won't go into the intricacies of the card game, but guys didn't know how to play, so it's harder to predict what was going to happen, and just like some wild things would happen. So in a sense, like the better player you are, it wouldn't necessarily mean you would win more. And yeah, back in the PGA, they were always asking for guys to play because we kind of, I don't think poached guys, but guys would get called up to Minnesota or wouldn't want to play or get sick of playing back there, and they were just trying to get guys from the live to go back, and eventually it just became too much, just getting begged and begged and begged to play. So I went back there and so I played one game and basically got to the last round. And the way it worked was I was in like third or fourth, and Miller was like in sixth or like he was last, and he was gonna finish last. And so he could have got more points and still would have finished last, or he could have got like less points, finished worse, but he knew it would have screwed me over. So at that point, when he like, I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming, and he screwed me over and like dropped me down two spots. And at that point, I just saw there was no integrity in the PGA, which because the storyline is there's no integrity in live golf, but that wasn't the case on our bus, and he totally screwed the game and screwed me, and that was, for a tour so desperate to get players, and that's how they're going to treat me. Um, I was done with it, and I was not going to go back there. And he apologized a million times over, and I have forgiven him since. And it definitely lasted a day or two, the frustration, but no, it's totally fine now, and that was fun. But I was done playing back there because they're like great players back there, card players, and I wouldn't say I'm the best, so it was a struggle.
Well, that's the whole point, right? Let's get the rookies to come back here. They don't know the intricacies. We'll take advantage of having them back
Should have
here.
played that out smarter if they wanted more
And
life.
I knew.
Yeah, silly.
The thing is, I knew when I went back there. So I really, at the end of the day, I only have myself to blame for that.
You were walking back. You were dead man walking back there. You knew exactly what you were walking into.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last thing for me, Lambo, is it was so fun to watch the return to Winnipeg for you. And not only the return because of how jubilant you were driving into that city on the bus. You were all smiles. You were like, look at this place, and pointing stuff out the window. But the jokes that came from your teammates about, well, this is the rink that Lambos built, and this is Carson's town, and all these really funny overtures that guys made towards you. Can you think of some of the funniest things guys said to you making Winnipeg this your town? Because there was so much of that while we were up there, both trips, but specifically the first trip in October.
Yeah, I don't know. I think one that stuck and might stick every time we go back there is it's the house that Lambos built. So that was that's a good one that, like, I don't know, when I think of that, I think of that one. So no, it was good. And I love Winnipeg, and as most people from Winnipeg do, but they're kind of the only people that love it. It's too bad when we come in, we just go from the airport to downtown, which might be the roughest stretch you see in Winnipeg. So there's a lot more to it, but I'm proud to be from here, and it's yeah, I love it here.
My last question. We learned during the season you've got a collection of magnets, and it sounds like what you do is different cities you go to, you collect a magnet to put on the fridge to kind of commemorate that city. So with all the places you've traveled, I'm sure there are a ton of them. But do you have a favorite of the whole collection that kind of stands out, one that's really cool or has a cool story behind it?
Yeah, I don't think there's really any insane stories behind any of them. I think one I really like I got this year was from San Diego, and it's like this like bus that's like a hippie bus, and I don't know, it's just kind of cool, and it's a bit nicer quality, and it's actually this whole thing started with my mom doing it, and she asked whenever me and my brother are going anywhere to get a fridge magnet for her, and I started just getting my own to see where I went. I know people will like put a pin on a map where they've been, so it's kind of that same thing, and I can look at them and remember the times I was in each place.
You said it was higher quality. What's the most you've spent on one of these magnets?
I think you can usually get them for like $3 or $4, but I'll step up and pay $10 for a higher quality one and open the wallet.
It's a nice,
Commitment to the magnet
it's a
game.
nice magnet.
It's a nice
Nice
magnet.
Yeah,
magnet.
yeah.
I lied. I have one more question that I wanted to get to. Would you rather watch a CFL football game or an NFL football game?
Ooh.
CFL, I went to the Bombers home opener. Not that anyone that listens to this is going to know about that, but it was a disappointing performance, and they're playing. It's Thursday today, so they're playing tonight, and definitely CFL. It's electric.
Well, they're reigning champions, aren't they?
No, they
They're not. Oh, they
almost.
lost. They lost because when we were there, weren't they going to the Grey Cup final in April? Was it April when it is? I don't know the timelines.
Yeah, no, so the Grey Cup's probably around like September, maybe October.
Must have been October because I remember my buddy
Yeah,
up there was telling me about this, but I didn't know they lost. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up.
yeah, it was a heartbreaker, but that's fine. Anything else?
That's a
Yikes.
perfect way to
Yeah.
finish.
Yeah.
That's a perfect way to
That's
finish.
your
Leave it
intro.
on a sour
That's your
note.
intro clip.
there's
Anything
your-
else?
There's your intro.
Yeah, the last time I do
Uh,
this. No more nice doing all the media.
No more
and
nice. I
stuff
just
you
blew
read
it.
for
You
everyone.
blew it. You
Yeah.
blew it.
Yeah.
No, Lambo, as we all knew this would be a really fun chat. Thanks for sharing so much with us. Thank you for being so willing to do stuff like this all year. You will be able to say no next year now that you're not a rookie anymore.
We appreciate it.
We
if you
hope,
don't.
we hope that you don't. Thanks so much, Lambo.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Before we get to the third period, we got to shout out Wildware. Wildware's got a lot of stuff coming up, so be on the lookout. But wildware.com is the official online store of your Iowa Wild with the largest selection of Iowa Wild fan gear, one-of-a-kind apparel, and exclusive specialty merchandise. There's always something new at wildware.com. Don't miss out. Head to the website. Shop now. What a convo with Carson Lambos.
Well,
by the
first
way.
off, do you remember when I used to do reads too? You've cornered in. You've
I like
cornered
doing
in
them.
the
I don't
reads.
know. I like doing them.
I
You can have some back.
I don't
if you
want them back.
All right, good.
And I
'Cause I don't want to give them to you. I'm glad you said that. I was trying to be nice. I
was
don't
just
want to give
sitting
them
there
to you.
listening to you do this read. I'm like, I think I did used to do these at one point. And we shared them, but boy, you've really it's become your shining moment.
Yeah,
in
well,
podcast.
the only thing I do right and well. It started because we were like kind of alternating. Like you do one week, I do one the other, and I started to like stumble over them, and they were just a mess. But
I guess
now-
it was kind of at your expense that we
Yeah.
gave them to you, or
I've
I
been
kind of
working hard.
strong-armed you into doing it.
I'm at my apartment at home. I stand in the mirror and I do ad reads.
That's what that's I was told to do that. I was told get a hairbrush, use that as your microphone, stand in front of the mirror. So look at you.
You know what? This segues perfectly into
But it was a great conversation with Carson, so a big thanks to Carson.
This
for that time.
segues perfectly into the bus line. The bus line, 515-318-7863. Give us a call. Give us your messages, your thoughts, your questions. We'll answer what we can. But I got a great segue into a voicemail, which is directed to you, which I think we can have you answer. So I'm going to play this, and I want to hear your response.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hey, Ben and Joey, this is Troy all the way up in Ames, Iowa. First time listener and a first time caller. Just saw the Iowa Wild Twitter post. Sorry, Joey, but this one's more for Benny G. Love when you call the games, Ben. Just wondering, how do you get better? How do you work on your craft of broadcasting? Do
Great segue.
you listen to other broadcasters? Do you
That's what I
do you
do.
broadcast maybe random NHL games that you watch on TV, or is it just kind of something that you're a good speaker and you can talk through a game? How do you kind of become a good broadcaster that you've become? Thank you, guys.
That's a very specific.
It's a good segue.
Yeah, it is a good segue. Well, thanks, Troy. Thanks for listening, and thanks for the kind words. Nothing I do is anything that I don't think other broadcasters don't do to prepare and to get better. But you watch and listen to a lot of different people, and you take things. It's a borrower's game. Every so often, I think maybe you stumble on something original, but it's what happens in hockey. You can shoot, there's a save, you can skate, you can pass, you can score, you can check, you can fight, but you kind of run out of things to do in hockey and also things to describe. So you try to describe it in a different way each time if you can. And I think I spend a lot of time watching and listening to other broadcasts, and some that you like, some that you don't. But even in the ones you don't like, sometimes you hear something and you go, oh, yeah, that's a good little phrase, or I like the way that this person handled that. And then as far as actual practice goes, you'd actually be surprised that one of the things that I don't know why, but every once in a while in the car, I'll get a play going in my head, and I'll do a goal call in the middle of the summer. It'll be Carson Lambos is in, he scores. It just to hear yourself do it, and just do it a lot, and repetition, because when you get to a certain point, you do start to really dial in on little things like the inflection between score or score. Am I going down or am I going up? And so just doing it a lot, and then just naturally just doing games. The first thing you're told when you get out of broadcasting school, at least the people I spoke with, was do anything and everything you can possibly do. Doesn't matter the sport, doesn't matter what it is, make mistakes. The more you do it, the more you'll learn your own voice and your own craft. So repetition would be the simple answer to that question. How
many times has your wife heard "my stars" or "my heavens" just around the house with you practicing?
We were just talking about this the other day, and I'm not a catchphrase guy. Some broadcasters are, and they do it well. I don't think it doesn't seem to fit my personality, if you will, on the broadcast.
Early, you're
but
young.
My stars is maybe the one that's stood out, or people have commented about that, and you try to not overuse it because you don't want. If it's a my stars moment, it better really be a big moment, right? But the other day, she was saying, I forget what the term it was, but we were talking about expressions like that. We were like, oh my gosh, or oh this, and she was like, there has to be a better way to say that. And I was like, well, my stars. And I'm like, but I'm not going to go on in my daily life like, oh my stars, I love that hoodie you're wearing, right? Like
it would be so funny though.
just to utilize that in daily life. I think catchphrases have to come naturally. And for some broadcasters, they use them more naturally than I think I would. It would feel forced to me.
Sure.
So I try to use my stars sparingly when it's a pretty incredible moment. So she does hear it from time to time, but I don't really use it in daily life. Maybe I should more. Maybe it would add spice into the day.
Just saying, think about it. It's like maybe think about it.
Thank you for the question, Troy. Thank you for that question. How do you train? How do you train for your job? Spend a lot of time looking at. Just like I do. I'm sure looking at other teams and what they're doing.
Yeah, it's different. I'm not rehearsing anything in the mirror ever except for ad reads. No, it's just a lot of, like you said, looking and seeing what everybody else is doing, keeping an eye on other teams, and whether it's in hockey or not, I get a lot of ideas from minor league baseball and when it comes to promotions and things like that. So just keeping my eyes open and being on social and seeing what teams are posting and what they're doing for different advertising elements, different ticket package ideas. So that's really the gist of it. Just keeping tabs on as much as I can. So
the other thing I thought about was playing NHL video games and turning the commentary off.
Yeah.
That was growing up. I did that all the time. My dad would be my color commentator sometimes, and it then became a party trick later on in life at college with my teammates.
Sure.
They'd play and they'd turn the volume down, and those are fun because then you almost take on more of like a comedic approach to doing it. I think if we ever did this Milne Lambos Bankier Masters game, I'd call it differently than I'd call an actual game. Have a little more fun with it. Lay into the guys a little bit because there's a way you can do it where it's not as you're not trying to make it sound like Game 7 of a Stanley Cup. You're trying to make it sound like a fun social bit. So food for thought.
We're going to do that.
We
are going to do that. Before we talk a little bit more about social, I lost a bet.
You
for the
did.
first time or second time in our history of podcast bets.
You did. And I didn't even know that I'd won it.
Yeah, you didn't even know. The Belmont Stakes, obviously we had a fun little podcast bet. Ben picked Sierra Leone, who finished third. I picked Mystic Dan, who just, I don't know, they didn't finish in the top three. Don't know where.
Did they finish the race?
Yeah. I
Okay,
just don't
well, that's
know.
good.
I just don't know where. But fortunately, Sierra Leone did not win the race, because then this would have been, added on to the
This would have
punishment,
cost you
but-
money.
Yeah, but
Yep.
I got to be caddy for a day, so and I'm not allowed to play, which is just a killer. Having to go to the golf course and not being able to play and having to watch somebody else play. And
Do you have to come pick me up from my house?
No.
Should have made this.
No, caddy for a
made
day.
this
I'm going to show up to the
stipulation ahead of
course
time.
with you.
Do you have
but
to
yeah,
clean my clubs?
I'm your caddy, so whatever caddies do, I hope we're in a cart. And
Are you
you
go-
don't have to walk.
Are you going to bring...
Or is it going to be like the Principal Charity Classic,
Oh,
where the
no,
golfers
that's
can
a good
drive
point.
and I have to walk?
We maybe should
Anyways, we'll figure it out. But yeah, that'll come. We'll share some photos and some video snippets. Ben will put them out on his Twitter account from his computer desktop.
No,
when he
from
gets
my
home.
phone Safari. Safari on my phone.
God. All right.
It's the best way to live.
We'll find out, because we're about to bring on our first staff spotlight of the off season here.
Mm-hmm.
We get a new digital media manager, Brooklyn Dean, who joins us from the state of hockey. So we'll bring her on, and then we're going to ask, because she's sitting here looking at us right now, has no idea what we're talking about. We're going to fill her in on your ridiculous social media antics, and we'll get her thoughts, and then see where it goes from there.
Let's do it. Our first staff spotlight of the summer, Brooklyn Dean.
All right, we're here. We got our staff spotlight. We got Brooklyn here. Brooklyn, welcome to Ridin the Bus.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, all right, I got to explain this a little bit, and
You're not even going to let her introduce herself. You're just going to throw
yeah,
right
no,
to this.
no.
right
We
to
get
this.
question number one right away before we even get to that, because this is important. We've talked about this a lot. I'm going to give you my take on what Ben does, and then Ben's going to give you his take, and from a social media expert's point of view, I want to know what you think. So,
Okay.
Ben, when he needs to send a tweet, Ben doesn't have social media. So if you like, Ben, did you see this on TikTok? The answer is no.
Yeah,
Ben, did you see
okay.
this on Instagram? No. Facebook? No. X? Maybe. Ben, when he has something he's got to share with the masses, he goes onto his phone like everybody else, and then things change. He goes to his, Safari or, he's probably not even a Google Chrome guy on his
Yeah,
phone. He's probably
Safari.
a Safari guy. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. He's already.
I don't have Google Chrome on my
Yep.
phone. No.
So,
okay.
and he goes to twitter.com and types in his tweets through there, as opposed to just getting the app and doing it the way that
Everybody
a
does
lot
it?
of people do.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So that's my slice of how it's done. Ben,
Yeah.
what's your take?
That's a proper description of how I handle my only social media commitments, which is X. I'm just getting the hang of calling it that now, too.
It's still Twitter.
It's,
Yeah.
Their
it's
website's
Twitter.
truly still twitter.com, but
Yeah.
So and I barely ever post anything outside of the hockey season. I don't think anybody really cares what I have to say about anything but hockey, and I think a lot of people probably don't even really care what I have to say about hockey either. So I don't spend a lot of time on social media. Like Joey said, no Instagram, no TikTok. Had Facebook, got rid of it a few years ago, and so whenever I do need to go on there, I do it from my browser on my laptop sometimes. Not Safari, that is Google Chrome on my laptop.
Okay, that's good.
Yep. Or on my phone, Safari. And really the thought process behind it was I used to have the Twitter app on my phone, but I don't like the notifications. I don't like even the reminder that it's there to go to it, because I don't want to spend time scrolling. I want to
Okay.
spend time away from social media doing other things, and I don't want that lure to be pulling me towards social
Okay.
media. So that's what's behind it. And it works well, because I don't spend a lot of time on social media. And maybe some people would say that shame on me for not being informed, but I take in my information via other avenues, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
thoughts?
I get the logic. I think the logic is solid. However, Yeah, I have not heard of people
That's
doing
crazy,
that.
right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's crazy.
Can't put me in a box. Can't define me.
I will say I get the whole not wanting to see it and be reminded and go on there all the time, because I think that's how this generation has gotten. There's a lot of, constantly going on social media. You see something, you click on it immediately, even if you have other stuff going on. So I think logic is solid there, but yeah, I definitely would not do it that way. I can't.
It is arduous. It's definitely, like, if you're trying to be on social media,
Yes.
the whole purpose.
The setup
to
is
make
way different.
Is to make it hard to get there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes I don't even know what my password is. So
See, that's what I mean.
I'll sign out, and then I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
So then
that's-
it's an even further deterrent for me to get on there, because then I got to go do the whole forgot password thing.
So ridiculous.
It's a great system.
Yeah.
So ridiculous.
It's a great
I-
system. I will
don't
stand
know.
by it. Tried and true.
All right.
Tried and true.
All right, Brooklyn, let's dive into how you got here. So
Yeah.
you're just about, by the time people hear this, you'll be a little over 2 weeks in.
Yep,
Um,
my rookie season.
Yep, your rookie season coming up here, but break it down for us. Where were you before you joined the Iowa Wild?
Yeah, so I was up in Minnesota as their social media intern this past season. In the state of hockey, where I'm from. Previous to that, I was at the University of Minnesota doing some social for their
You guys
athletic
wanna bond
department.
at some point over being from Minnesota?
We already
'Cause-
have.
yeah,
Don't worry.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No.
See my
Well,
way out of that
happened.
conversation.
Well, it happened a long
Yeah.
time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was kind of the face behind some of those minor accounts up in Minnesota. Season came to an end a little too short, but it was a great year. Had a ton of fun, and was looking for the next thing. Something opened up, came my way, and now I'm here. So super excited to be here and have a little change of pace from Minnesota. Come down to Iowa.
And you went to school in Minnesota, correct?
I did. Yep. Went to the University of Minnesota. I'm a Golden Gopher. Roll Golfs. Yeah.
Sky Yuma, right?
Sky Yuma.
Sky Yuma. Yeah.
What I don't.
People
what
think
is
it's
that? I don't-
ski.
Yeah, it's not.
It's
It's
spelled
not
like
ski?
ski. It's not ski. It's
No.
Sky Yuma.
What?
No.
Can someone explain that to me?
I don't
Like,
actually-
what-
I don't
what's the
know.
point
Yeah,
of it?
no.
Yeah, I don't know the origin of it. But that's,
I didn't go
that's
there,
the
so it's
thing.
not my job to know the origin of it.
But
Yeah, I
you're-
probably
you're a
should.
Gopher guy though, right? Like,
Both of my sisters were Gophers. Yeah.
Do you know the answer?
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I probably should, but
If someone knows, call in on the bus line
Yeah. Let
Tell
us
us.
know. Let us know.
and tell us.
What are you looking forward to most about being in this position?
I'm excited to just get the season rolling and start to make some fun content. I saw a lot of the fun stuff you guys were doing last year. There seems like a lot of guys who are willing to hop in front of a camera and do some fun stuff. So I'm excited to come in with some new, fresh ideas and just kind of get to know the guys and let the world see these guys how they are off the ice too, as well as a little bit on the ice. So yeah, just excited to get rolling, make some fun content for everybody to see, and yeah.
Okay, one question I have for you. As someone who has scored over countless comments and replies and things on social media, is there one that stands out to you as, I don't know if I want to say the funniest or just the most tongue-in-cheek response that really made you laugh? And I mean that in a positive way, because I'm sure there's negative ways people do it, but just as much as social media can be a cesspool of negativity, there's a lot of positivity on it too. Mm-hmm. Is there anything where you look back at it and you said, that was a great response, or that was a great comment, it really made me laugh?
Oh, it's a good question. I don't know if there's anything I can point to specifically, but there's a lot that we'll get of like people screenshotting our stuff and kind of making a new thing off it, like a meme or things like that. I love to go back and look at the accounts that will kind of not necessarily make fun of us a little bit, but just kind of poke fun
Yeah, it's a little
back
poke,
at us.
a little barb. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with
and
that.
create their own memes off of stuff. I love to see, people's own ideas, and sometimes I'll even pull stuff from people quote tweeting us or whatever and think, oh, I'm going to do that in the future, like on our accounts. So yeah, I think just stuff like that, throwing back any memes at us or things like that is just my favorite to see. And I know that the people are staying engaged and kind of knowing what's going on with our content to be able to do that back to us as well. So that's rewarding for me too, knowing that they're engaged with our accounts too.
I got 2 more questions. First one, obviously in the social world, what's the best piece of content you saw today? in your social media viewing?
Oh gosh.
Best thing you saw today.
Um.
And it doesn't have to be like the Iowa Wild posted the Ice Bucket Challenge. It doesn't have to be
She's only
the
been
Hey,
here-
yeah, I think that
best
was
thing
actually.
you saw in general.
I saw that too, actually. You believe
Yeah.
that? I saw it on LinkedIn, though.
That's all right.
But hey,
Yeah.
these
It
are my
counts.
channels. I
It
guess I do have LinkedIn.
I
Does
was
that
gonna
count
say,
as
I
social
thought you
media?
only had.
Does that count as social media?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a different kind, but
Yeah.
It's like very professionally
it's a
set.
networking piece more as opposed to yeah. What's the best
So I
thing
guess
you
I have
saw?
two. I've known this whole time I've had
He's
two. I
growing.
didn't even know
He's
it.
growing.
this is kind of a personal thing for me, but I have a ton of dog videos right now on my TikTok page.
No, you're gonna fit in well here.
Yeah, very well. I want dog videos. I got plenty I can send you.
So I saw like the ones where like it's like the voiceover of the dogs and it's like that funny voice of the dogs. Saw a couple of those today. Those were pretty good. That was probably my
Have you seen
favorite.
the one with the golden retriever who gets put in arm jail?
No.
Oh, that's great. This little golden retriever puppy just gets himself into trouble, and the video is just him under the arm of his owner, and the voiceover is like, "Hey, it's me again. I'm in arm jail. What did I do this time? Well, I made my brother upset because I took his toy, and then I ran around the house and I chewed somebody's sneaker. So hopefully I get put down soon." It's just it's really funny.
I've also been seeing the ones where the guy, it's like the please stitch this with like, I don't want to see your good dogs. I want to see your really, really bad dogs.
Oh, I saw one of those the other day too. Dog
Those are
comes
pretty
over.
good.
I don't want to see your good dog. I want to see your bad dog. Dog walks over and just smacks a trash can, falls over, and they go, "What the hell?" Video cuts. It's very funny. Very, very funny.
This sounds like a recurring segment. What's on social with Joey and Brooklyn? Later
Oh,
on
I don't know. It can
in
get
the podcast.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I won't take part in that, but I would be elsewhere for this.
Last question.
Antiquation.
Last question. Let's kind of get our fans to know you a little bit more. What are three fun facts about Brooklyn?
3 fun facts. I'm an only child. Yep. And I'm actually the only grandchild too.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It's literally just me, which is
spoiled.
pretty well. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess you could say that. Yeah, you get a lot more Christmas presents because there's nobody else. So.
Okay.
Gosh, what's another one? Big hockey fan, but I never played hockey, and I also can't skate very well. So
Those two do not go hand in hand. You do not have to be able to skate to be a hockey fan.
Fact.
No.
Fact.
true. So I was a volleyball player growing up.
Oh.
What's another one? I usually don't get 3. Usually it's just one.
Hidden talents.
Oh, hidden talents. No, I don't think so. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think on the third one.
Give us what's a show everybody should binge watch.
Manifest
Manifest.
on Netflix.
The plane that
The
disappears.
I've seen that one.
Yes.
I've not watched it, but I've seen previews.
Have you finished it?
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk about it when the camera shuts off because I got some thoughts and I don't want to ruin it for anybody. So
Yeah, that's
So
true.
nice of you.
yeah.
Yeah. Looking out for the viewer. And
Yeah,
the
you got to
listener.
watch Manifest. It might take you a little while. What is it? 3 seasons? I don't know. But
Too many.
This gets into another subsect of me and my media take.
I don't want to run. I don't want to run us long. We're doing a good job trying
we
to stay
are.
concise here. I'm not
are.
going to get into it. Let's save for another time. You can call us on the bus line. I'll talk about it. But nope, not right now. That's
Okay.
it. That's it for this week's episode, Ben.
That is, and just to think, I was going to ask you about the Karen Reed trial too, to try to make it nice, short synopsis
Oh.
and end the show quickly. Because
We'll talk about that.
You can't talk about that a lot.
You
at
going
all.
to work out?
Oh yeah,
This? All right,
yeah.
we're going to talk. We're going to talk. All right.
Brooklyn, thanks for stopping by. We're just thrilled to have you a part of the organization, the minor organization. You were a part of the big club, obviously, last year. And thanks for coming on the show.
yeah, thank you for having me.
Excited to have you.
And thank you, Joey,
Thanks for
for being here.
Thank you, listeners and
Yes.
viewers. Thank you, Carson
Yes.
Lambos. Thank you, Explore Minnesota. Thank you, Jeremy Core. I'm stealing Ben's job. That's going to wrap it for episode 34 of Ridin the Bus. And as we always say, she's not gonna
She
laugh.
doesn't.
Two honks for the win. Like, subscribe.